Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this meeting of Pendle Council's West Craven Area Committee. And thank you very much for coming along tonight. My name is David Wick, I chair the Area Committee. I'm a councillor for Earby and Coatswold. I'm going to ask people just to introduce themselves. If I go to my left.
Good evening everyone, my name is David Walker, Area Coordinator for the West Craven Committee.
Hi, Neil Watson, Planning Officer for the evening.
Good evening, Mick Strickland, Councillor for Barnoldswick.
Evening, David Hartley, Councillor for Earby and Coatswold.
Evening, I'm Susan Land, Councillor for Earby and Coates.
I'm Lola Wibb, Councillor for Barnoldswick Ward.
John Spencer, Town Councillor at Barnoldswick.
Chris Church, Town Councillor for Barnoldswick Ward.
Christine Hollow, Salterforth Parish Council.
Joanne Eccles, a Committee Administrator at Pendle Council.
Thank you very much. Now, we work to various rules, and there are two representatives, Town Council and Parish Council, who can participate in the meeting but not vote on items. So if we take any votes, the reason why they're not voting is because they're not allowed to. Item 1 is declarations of interest, and there's a plan application on the agenda which is on land owned by Barnoldswick Town Council. So I'm going to declare an other registrable interest, but say that the monitoring officer has given a dispensation to myself and other councillors who will declare in due course, because the meeting will be in quorate without us sitting in the meeting. I also declare on the same application that as a member of Barnoldswick Town Council, I have considered this application previously, but I come here with an open mind tonight and will listen to everything that's said before coming to a decision about what we'll do. So, we now need to go around the room and other people in the same boat. Chris?
I echo those comments entirely. I declare the same interest in both contexts, having been on the Town Council.
Thank you. And over here?
Yeah, I declare the same interest as well, and I've also discussed this item previously in a different meeting, and to remain open-minded throughout this evening's procedures.
Same here too, in my other hat as Barnoldswick Town Councillor, I've discussed this, and it is another registrable interest.
Thanks very much. I've got a further 2 where I am declaring an other registrable interest as a member of Lancashire County Council, and that is the problems of HGVs using the top road between Barnoldswick and Higher Ford, and the use of former sports field off Clifford Street, Barnoldswick. I declare the other registrable interest, but I say at the same time that I am not affected to any greater extent than any other person, so I do not intend to leave the room when we are discussing that item. I'm tempted to do the same on the environmental blight, because that involves the County Council as well. So belt and braces, I'll do it on the item 8 as well. Sorry about that, but we've got some new rules, and we didn't have to bother about all this before, but nowadays we do, and I don't want to trip up or have anybody else tripping up. Okay, John, you're a member of Barnoldswick Town Council. You haven't got a dispensation.
Correct.
You need to declare an interest.
But I do declare an interest, and I too was in that meeting where it was previously discussed at the Town Council.
Okay. You did express a wish to address the committee as if you were a member of the public on that item. Do you want to exercise that?
Yes, please.
Yes, please. Okay. You will have to leave the room, I'm afraid, when you've contributed. Okay. Right. Are there any further declarations of interest? No, so do I. Item 2 is public question time. This is an opportunity for any members of the public to ask questions about West Craven which aren't otherwise on the agenda. Are there any? No. Thank you very much. I'm moving on then to the minutes of the previous meeting. Would somebody move those as the correct record, please? They're moved and seconded. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Item 4, police matters and community safety issues. Obviously, we don't have a member of the constabulary here this evening. Have they sent any apologies, Joanne? Have they sent any information? No.
I haven't chased, to be fair. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, from the outset, could I suggest that committee resolves to draw this continued non-attendance by the police to the attention of the Chief Inspector covering our area. That's Chief Inspector Rick Ogden, and separately we are also contact the new neighbourhood policing sergeant, drawing his attention to the fact that there is a monthly meeting, and we do appreciate police attendance and would hope that they would turn up in future. Yeah? We agreed on that? Yeah. Are there any community safety issues that people want to flag up? I mean, we've got some long-standing ones which I think remain in existence. Okay. The only other thing that I was going to mention at this point was in association with the police and Barnoldswick Town Council, we've had a programme of Thursday evening activities, diversionary activities at Victory Park. I think they've been hugely successful, lots of kids attending, and it's the final one this Thursday. The initiative came from the police, one of the rural task force who organised it. So could I suggest that we put on record our thanks to the rural task force for organising those activities, and hope that we can continue to have such diversionary activities provided in the future? Yeah? Okay. Anything further? Community safety issues? If not, we're going to go on to planning. Yeah. Item 5 then, and the first application is a prior approval notification for installation of a 20-metre high lattice tower supporting 3 antennas, well, it goes on forever, with 2 number 600mm transmission dishes and associated ground cabinets and fencing and the like. I have 2 speakers. I've got
just one.
No, I've got Mr. Lloyd and I've got Councillor Spencer. So if I could ask Mr. Lloyd, now if you want to come and sit at the table, you may be on the camera, I'm not right sure, but we'll be able to hear you better. You've got up to 5 minutes to speak.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just going to repeat partly what I said to the planning people in Nelson. I mean, we're talking about some sort of construction that's nearly 70 foot high, which is hardly beautiful to look. also it's about virtually in my front garden from the planning that I've seen. You know, off Greenberfield Lane, it's just over the edge from where I am, so it's going to look hell out of the price of my value of my house as far as I'm concerned. I mean, and then the main thing to me, of all the acres of land between Greenberfield Lane and West Martin, they choose a place right near a lot of bloody houses. You know, I just can't see why you can't be situated in a more suitable place. Most of these things are not, you know, out in the country, aren't they? The other thing is obviously, you know, that there's also the health problem with them. I mean, it's always denied, but, you know, you've got Alzheimer's that's nearly at epidemic level, you know, that's been associated with radiation from electric pylons and these things. And then you've got various cancers that are associated with radiation. Otherwise, I mean, I don't know if anybody, I mean, some of these things aren't too bad looking, but I don't know if anyone's familiar with the one that goes on the road between Clapham and Bentham. There's one in a field there, and it's an absolute bloody monstrosity. But of course it's not near any houses. I mean, it's got aerials and bits stuck all over it, and this sounds a bit the same to me. You know, it's another bitty bloody thing. You know, I don't know, it just, I say it mainly though, I don't know why somewhere else suitable can't be found for it. You know, I know you decided on this position. Though I am told that the land it's on belongs to the council, so whether they're getting some sort of backhander out of it, I don't know. You know, but you know, rather than some farmer. But I mean, you know.
Is there anything else, Mr. Lloyd?
But, you know, really, and that's, I mean, yeah, it says all about the position of it, but, yeah, I mean, really, I mean, I know they need these things, but I mean, you know, I would have thought they could have found a more suitable, but I don't know why that's been picked. I don't know whether it needs to be there, I don't know.
Right. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Now, once you're finished, we can't bring you back in unless there's any questions that the councillors have. So just make sure you've said everything you need to say.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. Right. Now, John Spencer, you've got up to 5 minutes, and you're addressing the committee as if you were a member of the public.
Okay. Well, I fully agree with Mr. Lloyd in that it's not a good thing for these masts to be situated near people's homes. However, as I understand it, there are two potential sites. On the grounds that the Greenberfield site would affect fewer homes and less of the population, I would favour that particular position.
Okay. Is there anything further?
No, not really. Just it's probably the lesser of two evils.
Okay. Are there any questions from committee members to either of the two speakers? Chris?
May I ask Mr. Lloyd, would the tower be visible from your property?
Sorry?
Yes, definitely. Just say yeah. Just yeah. Can you hear it? Can you see it?
I've only seen the plan, you know, that was on the internet, and I would have thought that 70 foot high, but I didn't miss it.
And just over the road.
It seems to be just sort of part of the way down around the last house in the lane, and it seems to be just over the hedge there. unfortunately pretty glaring here.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no further questions, I'm sorry I can't bring in. We have to have notice by 12 noon on the day of the meeting.
I wasn't made aware of that.
Sorry, but it's a legal requirement.
Can I just say one thing?
No, I'm sorry. What I would suggest that you do is if you have a word with one of the councillors that they relate to you. Lola, are you happy to just hear what the lady's got to say? So,
I've already written to you, and they said they would reply to me within 2 days, and I have not had a reply from the council. It's yes, your council. The application I have mentioned that you don't seem to have realised that our water supply at the barn and the farm comes across that field, and no mention has been made about what to do about water supply to our houses.
okay. Lola, do you want to say something?
Yeah, there's some concerns by local residents who have there might be a water supply to the property underneath that land there where they're proposing to build it.
Yeah, I think there is a water supply that goes across there, yes. I've seen it on building plans. Yeah? Okay, thank you very much. Right, John, I'm going to ask you to leave, I'm afraid. Thank you. Right, we're now deliberating as a committee, and as I mentioned earlier on, we can't bring people in, members of the public. Before I bring Mr. Watson in, the history behind this is that there was an application to relocate the masts that are currently on the fire station, which we can't probably see out of the window, but there's some work needed doing on the fire station tower, and the telecoms operator applied and asked for a new site at the end of the Raynor Road car park. Now, Pendle Council as landowner said, well, we'd rather you didn't build it on the car park because, I mean, never mind the car park, that's been identified as a possible location for a new health centre, should we ever get a new health centre. So we said, could you look at alternative locations from a landowner point of view? The planning application came before this committee in due course, and we refused that, essentially on impact on the conservation area. Local residents had objected, but they weren't sort of like material grounds for objection. That refusal was appealed by the telecoms company, and they were granted consent on appeal. In the meantime, they had looked around Barnoldswick to see what other sites they could possibly use. And if you look at the planning documentation, there's a long list of sites that they've been to or they've dismissed. I mean, I think they identify land in public ownership because it's an easy option for them, and obviously this is in public ownership. They identified this site at Greenberfield. They said the coverage was actually better than putting it on Raynor Road car park, but from a planning point of view, they said, well, they put the planning in, and they've said somewhere along the lines of, if they don't get the Greenberfield one, they'll put it on Raynor Road car park. So when, I think it was John Spencer said, it's not a good thing for these masts to be closer to people's homes, and it's probably the lesser of the two evils. He was referring to it be a lot closer to a lot more people's homes on the end of the Raynor Road car park. Whether that's a material consideration or not, Mr Watson will advise us. And Mr Lloyd asked why can't it be situated in a more rural, sorry, I can't say this one, a more rural location. The top of them, the bottom of it is, this committee can only consider what they've applied for. Although as a landowner, we could say, could you look somewhere else? We can't do that as a planning authority. Can you look somewhere else? I mean, perhaps oversimplifying that. So we have to look at the application in front of us rather than what we would wish to see. And as to why they've chosen that particular location rather than a more rural one, that's for the telecoms operator, and I really can't say why, but they did say there is better coverage there. And I would say that as someone who's been a local councillor for over 40 years, I have never ever taken a backhander, and I strongly suspect that none of my colleagues have been offered one, never mind taken one. So I'm just going to put that out of my mind because I don't think it's an appropriate suggestion. So, Mr Watson.
Chairman, thank you. A lot of it's covered in the report, so and you've covered some of the points, but I'll just go over one or two things that I can add over what you've got. The code system operators have cell coverage requirement, so they can't just, this is a location, point Mr Lloyd brought up, they can't just place them anywhere, they have to cover, and that's part of their lot licence. So these things they don't want to put up, in the sense of it costs them a lot of money to do that, so they're doing it because they're required to do under the code systems licence. That's an aside really to what we're looking at, but that's just the reason why they do these things. And obviously here they're getting rid of one and they're having to replace that, so they have site search areas that they've got to look at, so that's why they're doing that. Chairman, in terms of, there's a couple of things that we can't take on board because the courts dictate that. And I do appreciate that it's really important for individuals, but you're not allowed to take on board house prices. It's the courts are quite clear on that, nor are you allowed to take on board health issues if there is what's called an ICNIRP. It's the International Commission for Non-Ionising Radiation, if I get it right. And again, it's court decisions on that to say if it's got an ICNIRP certificate, you can't look at health issues. I know it's controversial in many ways, but that's what, as a planning authority, that's what the law really brings you down to. So when it comes to it, really, there are, I think, two key issues here, or three. Relationship with neighbours. It is a lattice. It is over the road. It won't be overbearing, but you will see it. I'm not saying you won't see that, but it's not going to be overbearing, and you can't protect a view in the English planning system. I don't know about Scotland, but you can't protect a view. So it's the visual impacts in the locality. You've got obviously the sewage work near, etc. You can have these things do have a visual impact, but they also have public benefits. And come on to the last point, it's also the relationship with the listed building. Now, there's an update report. We had comments from Growth Lancashire, who are our conservation consultants, and they're really reaffirming what we put in the report, that their view is that there will be an impact. What we haven't done is in the report, it refers to the impact on a heritage asset, but Section 66 of the Listed Buildings Act weights to that, because it does say you have by law to look at the relationship to a setting of a listed building, not a conservation, it doesn't relate to that, but it does say to a listed building, and obviously there's a listed farmhouse to the, what would it be, the east of the site, give me orientation. South. That's it, Chairman. Other than that, it's really a planning decision, a balanced decision based on your view of the visual impacts and the impacts on the listed building.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lawler-Witt.
Thank you, Chair. Just the other comment that I've been asked by residents about the water supply, that's not a planning consideration, is it? Because any developer would have to maintain or reroute any existing.
Generally, to the right of to get water from that land, that right isn't affected by any planning decision. If there's no right, then the landowner can get rid of that water any time. So it's if that right exists, then this planning development won't impact on that.
Chairman, in the report, it describes the harm to the listed building as less than substantial, and it's only on, I forget the technical term, Mr. Watson, sort of the balance in looking at different available sites to determine if that less than substantial harm is worth refusing application.
Two issues with that. One is, are there other alternative sites available? You can take that on board if as a committee here, if you wish to. It's not, if there is another site available, it doesn't prevent you from approving it, but it does give some solace to the other party that they can go elsewhere. The setting's slightly different. The setting is about whether it will harm the listed building, and then you put a test on whether there will be public benefits to it, which clearly there would, so you have to balance that out then if there is harm.
Thank you. Chairman, I'm minded that this application doesn't have any planning grounds that I feel would warrant it being refused. I think, given that it is the best location to test for coverage, and that the council has considered the alternative location to this and said it doesn't want it there, I think this has to be the application that we approve.
Okay. Further speakers? Chris.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm quite split on this one myself. I think the deciding factor to me is, well, one factor is that there will be a visual impact whichever of the two sites is chosen. Now, bearing in mind that they already have, we turned down and they won on appeal the Raynor roadside. I know that they are very different in their way, but it will, the visual impact will be on many more properties if they go ahead with the Raynor Road. As I say, it is a difficult one. I was going to say something on Mr. Lloyd's comment on the health issue, but as you say, that is out of us, as is also the matter of the water supply. Presuming that as this is, we know this is their preferred site of the two, I think we have to accept that if we refuse this, they will go to appeal. I think the best chance we have in terms of the environmental appearance is, are there any conditions we can put on the appearance? I know not of the tower itself, that is pretty much out of it. The appearance of the base unit, could we approve with conditions?
Okay. Can it, Mick?
Just, if I could, just ask Mr Watson a quick question. So, one of the speakers mentioned around the visual sort of aesthetics at the top of the tower. If that was to grow in any way, shape or form, do we have any control over that? Or once permission's given for it, are they pretty much free to do what they want? I'm mindful that on the drawing it shows probably 6 vertical antennae that fasten to the top of it, which are similar to the ones that are already on the tower. And to my mind, I remember them putting the installation on the top of the tower at the fire station, and to my mind they've never changed that. They've changed similar shape items on there, swapped like for like, but it's never grown as such. Is that something that we've come across before where, you know, the actual shape or the size of it has increased?
Through you, Chairman, there's a piece of legislation called the Town Country Planning General Permitted Development Order, and within that there are allowances to put dishes and the vertical antennas up, etc. So it can grow under permitted rights.
And I think, just echoing pretty much what Councillor Whip and Councillor Church have said, it's quite a difficult one. We, you know, ideally we wouldn't want it, but in modern day technology we need it. Would it be great, a quarter of a mile away, sat in the middle of the countryside? Absolutely would, but would that give the construction company or the operating company the signal they require, etc.? I would suggest not, otherwise it would probably have been identified. And I'm just really mindful that if we end up with this construction on that car park on Raynor Road, the further impacts, the potential for a medical centre or anything that we want to build to help the infrastructure of this town will be really hamstrung. So I'm mindful to second the proposal of Lola Whip if that's what it is.
Okay. Neil?
Just one thing, this has been quite so you need to be clear that in your view it doesn't impact on the character and setting of the listed building, because there is a requirement in law for you to consider that, so you need to be aware of that.
Okay. Well, just on that, I'll come in because I mean I've visited the site multiple times, most recently today, and you know, looking at the farmhouse listed building, it's the sort of gable end that it's looking at. So, I mean, I've scratched my head about this, and in fact, it was something that the town council flagged up, its proximity to the farmhouse. On balance, I don't think it is a big enough impact to substantiate a refusal. I mean, we could try it and let it be tested at appeal, but realistically, I think it's a very marginal, if any impact at all. So it is something that I've considered carefully, in full knowledge of going and having a look at the site, and also looking at it from the direction of the farmhouse as well. So I have to point out that today, when we went down, you know, there were 3 articulated sewage tankers and a number of tractors with tankers on one. So, I mean, it looked a very industrial setting today rather than that rural idyll. Yeah, but
no way.
That's the improvement. True.
you're behaving yourself, aren't you?
Yeah. Trying to.
Okay. Right. Chris, did you want to come in again?
Yes, on the matter of conditions that I suggested,
Okay.
what scope might we have here?
The palisade fence, could the palisade fence be a mesh, sort of like green mesh security fence?
Sure, we can get if that's the committee's view, we can get the applicants to change. I'm sure they won't mind that. And you could even look towards planting on there around the base, but you're obviously not going to disguise the lattice, are you?
No. In terms of planting, I should mention that quite separate to this, the triangle of land between Greenberfield Lane, or rather the access track that runs parallel to Greenberfield Lane, and the footpath that crosses over towards West Close Barn. There's an initiative that the Town Council are doing which will plant a micro-forest on that flank of the mast. But, I mean, that forest will be obviously a lot lower than 20 metres high on rising ground. And just the other point, I know from a point of view of being stood on the ground that there is quite a lot of trees between Mr. and Mrs. Lloyd's property and the mast. I fully accept that. I think that the top of the mast will come above that, but it is screened in that direction quite a lot. And I'm also aware that on the trying to get me cardinal points right, on the west of the proposed mast, the Town Council do intend to have an allotment site. So I don't think they'd be too keen on too much planting on. Well, yeah, they want planting, but not trees, planting allotments. So, what does the committee think? So there's the suggestion about the green security fence rather than palisade. Yeah. Susan?
Well, having seen what happened in Salterforth, Kelbrook, where a metal fence appeared around the garage there, which looked horrendous. If we could put something like the mesh security, that would certainly blend in much better.
Okay. I'm thinking, Neil, about the planting that is already proposed, and whether we could condition that in, but and whether the telecoms operator would pay for the planting of that micro forest.
I'd have to ask them, Chairman, whether they would want to do that. I don't think we can condition that.
Okay. All right. Well, the recommendation is that we should delegate any decision because the consultation period doesn't end until Thursday.
Yeah.
So there is an opportunity for discussion about ameliorating the visual impact by discussion with the the applicants, which could encompass not only the security fence, but whether they will support the microforest planting to the east. Is there anything further that committee would wish to see included as a condition? No? Okay. So it's moved and seconded with the bits that I've just suggested adding in there, that we delegate grant consent. Is there any circumstances that when it had come back to committee, Neil?
Unless you just delegate it full stop, which you can do, it will be if you delegate subject to no new issues arising. It depends on the phraseology that you wish to use.
Looking at the mover and seconder, no new issues? Yeah?
Do we expect to see anything coming out of the consultation period that would be contrary to what we've already seen from reports?
Probably not, but I can't guarantee that.
Then we'll, add on with no new.
Okay. All right. So are we clear what the proposal is? Delegate grant consent, subject to no new matters rising until the expiration of the consultation period, and for there to be negotiations with the telecoms operator regarding the appearance, possible contribution towards planting scheme to the east, and to have a green mesh security fence rather than palisade fence. Can I see all those in favour of that, please show? Okay, thank you very much. Anybody against? No, a couple of abstentions. Okay, so that is carried, but it's a delegation of granting consent rather than granting consent on the basis of what we've just discussed. Okay, Neil? Yeah? Thank you very much. We're going to go on to the next application now. This is one where the committee is commenting because the application is for a greater number of houses. Oh, we're going to let John back in.
Yes.
So the threshold for this committee to determine applications for housing developments is 50 houses, is it? 60. Sorry, 60 houses. I saw 50 somewhere. And this is for 98 houses. So the decision by the local planning authority will be made at the Development Management Committee. And so we're commenting as if we're any other consultee rather than making a decision on the application. Neil, when do we expect this to go to Development Management?
Probably October. But we still have consultees to come back, so that's the earliest it will go on, depending on the complexity of the comments we get back. So I'm not really giving you an answer there.
Okay, all right. Well, October at the earliest, and it could be later depending on consultees. So this is an application for 98 houses on the site of the former Fernbank Mill off Fernbank Avenue, Barnoldswick. Oh yeah, it says in the report, the application has been brought before committee for comment as it is a development of over 50 dwellings.
We've got that wrong and it is 60
okay.
in the Constitution.
So 60 dwellings. So we're talking about it as if we're a consultee. I'll kick off, shall I? It's highlighted in the report that the League Local Flood Authority object on flood risk ground, and they say it's an inadequate flood risk ground. Now, the applicants might come back with rationale to overcome that, but I think that's quite actually a strong consideration to be taken into account. It may seem a long time ago, but in 1932 there was a downpour and there was the Barlick flood, and the flood ripped through the centre of Barlick, but it also affected this area, and the low-lying land to the north, I would think, was inundated and under quite a lot of water. So that happened in 1932. You know, it might have been one of these storms that you only get every, well, very frequently, but at some point there will be another storm of that intensity. And this site is in the firing line as far as that's concerned. There's also a, thank you very much, there's also a culverted section of watercourse which runs through the site, and in ideal circumstances that would be opened up rather than built upon. You know, culverts are very, very risky in terms of floods. They only need to get blocked and all of a sudden you've got water flowing over land. So if you can open them up, I think you should open them up. And I think in terms of environment and ecology, they're much better being opened up rather than the watercourse buried underground, which I think at this place is, you know, something like 5 or 6 metres down. So there are better ways of doing it. I think there are also considerations about infrastructure. So the town's infrastructure, we've got a couple of 100 properties under construction in Barlick at the moment. There's no increase in the facilities that support a community. We don't have provision for community infrastructure levy, so there's no contribution towards improving the town's facilities. So I think those are issues that we ought to draw to the Development Management Committee when it meets to consider this one. So boiling it down, it's flood risk, culvert, infrastructure. Chris?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I think infrastructure is the key word here. I mean, there was the first thought that this is brownfield site, which would be preferential, but it is still more houses. We still have people unable to get doctor's appointments. There is pressure for local school sites. Just about everything else, traffic going through the town to any point. These are all major critical points. In terms of this proposal as a development anywhere in town, then we have to oppose it on those grounds.
Okay, thank you. Mick?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I totally agree with what you both said. I think the add for me is that whilst we're seeing significant development and growth of building dwellings in Barnsley, it'd be nice to see a commercial growth in terms of the land being returned back to its commercial value, something built on there that could add to industry or development in that area.
Okay. Just on that point, Lola?
Thank you, Chair. Just in regards to the culvert, I think it's imperative that whoever develops this land does expose that watercourse. It has several major flooding issues downstream of it. It was only a couple of years ago we turned out to where it comes out of culvert just beyond the boundary of this development, the red line, and then goes back into culvert further down at the new development off Gisborne Road. And the maintenance of that was poor, and it was being blocked, and there was residents having flooding concerns all along that stretch there. If the stream upstream of that has more capacity to take flows during a rainfall event, then a lot of that flooding risk can be mitigated, and that cannot happen while it's in a pipe. There is absolutely nowhere for the water to expand to if it's not in a pipe. Now it's got attenuation tank on the plan upstream at the boundary of the development, but I mean that basically sterilises it. There's no ecological benefit there at all, and you know this could be an amazing biodiversity net gain potential to unculvert the watercourse. And in fact, if it was the opposite and they're proposing culverting it, I think the BNG points would put it so far into the negative it never got off the ground. So I'm just surprised. Can those developers not get those points and sell them on to make a bit of money? I feel like it's a really big missed opportunity there.
Thank you. There's another issue which is the proximity to concrete Cliffords, the concrete batching plant, and that is very, very noisy and dusty as well. So, I think the first thing that any residents would be saying if they moved in there is, well, there's a noise issue, and shutting concrete Clifford down. So, not only is the development taken out of use, I'll just check with Neil, is it down as employment land, Neil?
Not designated.
Not designated, because of course it does have planning consent for commercial units, doesn't it? And that was a really good scheme in terms of the way in which it was landscaped, and it did open up part of the culvert.
And it had the footpath diverted along the stream.
Yeah. So I think noise and dust from the immediately adjacent concrete batching plant needs to be a big factor in this one. Susan?
I think when you brought up the commercial aspect of it, that makes a lot of sense with the amount of housing that's already being built. We're going to be looking at jobs and jobs for people in the town as it keeps expanding, and that would be a much better use than more housing.
Yeah, okay. Anything further that people want to put forward as a comment? No?
Yes.
Sorry, David.
Sorry, Chair, yes. If they do go ahead, I'd like to see more bungalows, certainly, because I think there is a desperate need in this area for bungalows and see, disabled access and things like that. Even play areas and things. They just seem to copy and paste off some sort of 3D computer program and stick it together with no actual creativity of these sites. It would be nice to see a site that you look at and go, wow, yes, I would really like to move on to it. But they don't. They're all the same. So So yeah, maybe address the, you know, housing for people downsizing with bungalows, and you know, a lot more there.
Okay. David, you mentioned design there. Could I just ask Neil, this is a bit of a funny application in that it submitted details, but the application, I forget what the phrase is, but the application is for only certain issues, access and the like. So how does that stand?
It's an odd one. If you put all your reserve matters in, then it's a full application, you pay a full fee, so it's normally just getting minimum details, but they're allowed to put in any four of the five, and it'd be classed as an outline. It's just the way the legislation works.
Okay, so it's an outline application.
Yeah.
And what details can we take into consideration?
All of them that they've applied for, but the one that they haven't applied for, which is design, isn't it? 1, 2. Yeah.
Appearance?
No, they've got access, appearance, layout, and scale. Is one in there. The other ones, I think, design. That's the one that you can't take into account now. That's just where they're allowed to do that. It's an odd way of approaching it. I've got to say, normally you just do access and leave the rest of it and do indicative, but they're not. They're wanting these four to be taken into account.
So, Chair, just for one, I was down there earlier today before we came to you. If the D&H concrete guys are still going to drive through this estate, it really is going to be, you know, a no-go area. The children aren't going to be able to play out because you've got big Arctics full of concrete in and out with concrete products to get to this land. So that surely needs to be taken into consideration. You know.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah. And I'm not, Chairman, I've got to say I've not read every document in there yet. I will do in the coming weeks, but there will be a noise assessment and an impact assessment within that we'll expect to take into account. We're fully aware of the concrete works, and we have obviously been since discussions from the previous owners, etc. about the site.
Okay, and a further one from me, prompted by the reference to traffic, is the junction with Fernbank Avenue with Gisborne Road.
Yeah.
So, you know, it is what it is, and there's a listed building at the end of that, so it's not like you could go and knock it down and make a better junction. Okay, anything further? No? So, I've hopefully written all these down, but I'm sure John already has. I've got infrastructure, health, I've written stuff down in wrong order actually, flood risk, opening the culvert, the commercial consent, trying to retain it as employment land, noise from D&H Concrete, given the proper title rather than Concrete Clifford, with noise, dust and traffic to and from, the absence of ecological benefit, and referencing biological net gain on that one. I think jobs comes into the commercial thing. We're not allowed to talk about design as such, but in terms of the layout and appearance, if there were to be development, we'd want greater diversity, including bungalows, I mean, it is a very ugly layout. Yeah.
You can talk about design in terms of layout, etc. Obviously,
Yes.
and scale.
Yeah.
There are things that you can talk about now.
Yeah. You know, if you're wanting to have a new community, the layout, you know, should be much more about having that communal space and arranging the houses around it, which the current layout certainly doesn't do that.
What looks like a town square is actually just a turning head for all the cars.
Yeah. Okay, so have I covered, John, have you got one?
No, sorry,
You were just playing with your pen?
yeah,
Very good.
just that.
Okay. Is there anything that I've missed from the list? So we're commenting and saying, look, you know, there's all these issues that need to be taken into account. Yeah? Okay, can we put that to the vote? Those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. That is carried. Okay, item 5C is appeals. Get back into the paperwork. So we've got a report on appeals. There's two outstanding ones. One of which is this refusal of a tree consent to remove a sycamore, which dates back to 2023, Neil. I can see you just putting your hands up. Is there any way of prompting the inspectorate to deal with this?
Chairman, we have asked. The last prompts I gave, because we've got several appeals in, they're outstanding from February. The last prompts, we got a decision the day after, and basically allowed what we served an enforcement notice to prevent. So I think the inspector was telling me to shut up and keep my nose out. So
okay. All right. Yeah. Okay, and then we've got two decisions where in both cases the appeals have been allowed with conditions, including the 39 dwellings at the land to the east of Cong Road, Earby, which I note with regret.
Chairman, I'm not saying this for any point scoring here. Costs in both were awarded against the council, so we don't know how much that's going to be yet. But the inspector thought the council had acted unreasonably in both decisions.
Well, I would be quick to point out that the final decision of the local planning authority was the Development Management Committee, not this committee. So
I said the council, I was very careful.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Right, anything further on appeals? Item 6 is enforcement action. So we've got the formal Wardle Story offices. It just goes on forever. Land at the junction of Greenberfield Lane, where they're going to be re-prosecuted. The fines are racking up now. I make my perennial plea to see whether we could get United Utilities, Lancashire County Council and ourselves together to try and reach a solution in terms of the orphaned land adjacent to this developer and the impact on Greenberfield Lane itself. Which isn't clever. Next one, Lower Green Hill Farm. Not getting anywhere with that one. And then Cobb Lane, Telbrook. I have not had any fresh complaints about that one, so I hope that it's actually been suitably addressed, but you never know after this rain that we just had. And then we've got a planning application for the conditions which we weren't happy with. And could I ask Neil that automatically comes to committee, please, rather than being delegated?
Chair, I've got some further information on that recently, which I haven't gone through, came last week, so that may trigger the point where I can bring it to committee.
Okay. Anything further on those? If not, moving on. Area committee budget. I've got nothing at this point. Any issues with this book? Nope. Right. Item 8 then, environmental blight, and Mr. Walker.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I've not managed to actually meet with a colleague from Manchester County Council. I've exchanged several messages in relation to the West Close Road, Lorry Park. The outcome is new signs have been erected regarding the installation of cameras. The cameras have been re-erected. They've been asked to be removed prior to the just before the July meeting. So they're back on site now. New signs are on site, and I'd say informal agreement with Household Waste Recycling Centre staff is that they will monitor the waste that are presented outside the facility, remove it, check for evidence, and support any case that we should bring forward against an offender that's found. So, in all, I think it's quite a good multi-agency, if you want to call it, arrangement to try and improve that area.
Thank you, David. As committee will recall, the County Council had asked for the cameras monitoring the cameras monitoring the area which could capture fly tippers. The County Council had asked them to be removed, so I think it is positive progress that we've got to the situation that we have. Could I just check, the County Council staff aren't checking the cameras, are they? Or are they?
No, it's
others. Yeah.
Enforcement thing.
Yeah, okay. Very good. Anything further on that? No? Somebody move it? Yeah, thank you very much. Item 9, confirmation of tree preservation note adjacent to 2 School Lane, Earby. Anybody happy to move this?
Any trees we can conserve, then yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's moved and seconded.
Yeah.
Yeah, all those in favour? Thank you very much. That's carried. Item 10, items for discussion. I am minded to take an urgent item following the pollution spill, the sewage spill from the main sewer running into the sewage treatment works, and the impact that it's had on the football club, the cricket club, and the environment by foul sewage spilling into the beck and subsequently into the River Ribble, with untold thousands of cubic metres of sewage polluted the environment down there. And without going into it too much at this point, but I think effective repairs have now been carried out. I've been down to have a look this afternoon, and they've sleeved the sewer where it broke. They've concreted it in. The shuttering is due to be removed tomorrow. So the clean-up operation begins, which will be quite significant. My concern is that the remaining length of sewer pipe between where it broke above the stream and the sewage treatment works. Well, I think it leaks, and there's a big question mark in my mind as to whether the problem will just move a little bit further down and we have the same issue again. So the reason for urgency is that I think we should formally request United Utilities to thoroughly inspect the remaining length of unimproved sewer, line it and protect the sewer, which effectively is above ground at that point as it runs into the treatment works. So, I mean, I've explained what the problem is and I've suggested the solution. Would anybody like to comment any further?
How long is it going to be on
Christine?
the cricket pitch and football pitch, do you think?
Don't know. We've got a meeting tomorrow afternoon where United Utilities will be meeting with both the football club and the cricket club, and I hope to be there as well. At this point, I don't know.
Do you know what it involves cleaning it up? I know it's irrelevant.
Sorry.
What does it involve cleaning it up, sort of?
Well, the hard surfaces are relatively easy. You can disinfect them. I think the difficult areas is where you've got quite an expanse of grass. The outfield in the cricket club and part of the football pitch, corner going towards the goal mouth and up towards the centre line.
And is there some sort of regulations to when it can be used again? Is there something like, or is it just like when it smells okay we can?
Well,
is there some sort of?
I don't know.
No.
I mean, the feedback I've had is that they'll do a clean-up operation. It would then have to be left for a certain period. Tests would have to be carried out, but I don't know the detail of that, Christine.
No,
so,
it's not the testing.
but I mean, it's a huge blow to the environment, but it's a huge blow to the clubs. The cricket have got a couple of weeks, perhaps. Well, yeah, a couple of weeks left in the season. They had a big game, top of the league game that was due on Saturday, which had to be called off. Well, at the weekend, it had to be called off. So it's really unsatisfactory. The initial response from United Utilities was a disgrace. A member of the public reported the problem a week last Saturday. By chance I went down to the park on Sunday, saw the tankers, asked what was going on. They were due to carry out a repair the following day, on the Sunday, didn't do so, and then I'm called to site on Wednesday, and it was like something out of a disaster movie with glutinous black sewage literally pouring out of this break in the pipe and then going over the football pitch and into the beck. And then on the Thursday, when we'd had a rain shower, they were over pumping and there was a bung in it, but the sewage was fountaining 2 metres into the air. There was so much back pressure on the sewer, and that's when it went onto the cricket pitch as well as the football pitch and into the beck as well. I reported it to the Environment Agency on the Wednesday. That was the first report that the Environment Agency had. So the sewage had been going into the beck for not a full week, but certainly for Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, before the Environment Agency knew anything about it. Absolute disgrace. You know, United Utility, well, they have issued an apology, I think, today. But I am shocked and dismayed at what they've done. So anyway, all I'm asking for the committee is, can we put a request in for that remaining length of repaired, renewed sewer to be lined and reinforced to prevent further spillages. Is that straightforward?
I'm with that.
Lovely. Thank you, Susan. Thank you very much. Any further comment? No? Is that agreed? All in favour? Thank you. Right. The first item we've got on the list here, Councillor Church, postal services in the area.
Thank you, Chairman. Here we are again. You will remember, Chairman, you and I met some of the senior people, however many months ago, in response to continuous and ongoing complaints from residents all over the area about the despicable state of the postal service. We had talk of missed hospital appointments. In one case, I was asked to write written testimony to stop a lad who was on bail from being dragged back into court because into custody because he missed his court date. At that time, the post office figures told us of the imminent acquisition of the post office as a whole. They said to wait until, and I believe it was some point in the summer, when they expected things to be very, very different under the new management. I put out yet another straw poll on social media, and I've got exactly the same responses back. It's just deja vu. People talking about not getting any mail for, in one case, a fortnight. People getting a handful of mail at once. Much of it is late, and I think at this point, another factor that has come out from many people is immense respect for the desperately overworked posties who are, I have to say, as much the victims of this as the public are. They're given longer walks, they are given harder work all the time, and this has not changed. We've spoken to several posties, this has not changed in recent times at all. So all I can say is to suggest that we go back to them, ask for the situation, ask why nothing has changed yet, and request that they do something to put matters right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to second that, Chris. It's well put together. Myself struggled last month from the delay in the post. I received my papers 3 days after the meeting, and I got more earache from my wife because there was a voucher in the post for Pendle Mill for 10% off, and the deadline had gone. So I got earache because of the post office. But yeah, it's. I know when my dad was a postmaster, and when he was in charge, they would go out 2 times, twice a day to deliver. And if any first class mail came in at 12 o'clock, it would be delivered by 2 o'clock that same day.
Yeah.
So
those are the days.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had somebody from SUF contact me today. They've not had any post. He went to the delivery office to collect anything that was there for him. He said there was a hospital appointment. There was a Radio Times which he wouldn't have got until the week had passed. So, you know, and as Chris says, I mean, there's some horror stories about people missing hospital appointments and all that. Now, they said that things would improve when the new universal service obligation was brought in, which is now in place. But and speaking to or listening to posties, the staffing situation hasn't improved to any meaningful extent in Marley. There is talk about them reinstating 3 rounds, so that there would be more rounds, more posties, so that the pressure on the posties would be reduced. You know, they won't be outfaced with rounds that are too big. But as yet, that hasn't changed. So I wholeheartedly endorse what Chris and David are saying. Okay, any further comment? Can we vote on that? Those in favour, please show. Thank you. That's carried. Second item then, problems of heavy goods vehicles using the top road between Banalswing and Higher Forward, and consideration of requesting a road designation on the main road into the town from Kelbrook in order to get HGVs to take that as a preferred route rather than over the tops. Chris?
Thank you, Chairman. This is an even older problem. It's been a problem certainly since as long as I've lived in this town, which is over 25 years now. I know I've said before, there are times when the vehicles coming the other way take up so much road you wouldn't get a bike through there. It seems to be getting worse. Even little minor matters like wide cars trying to pass each other. I actually, at one point when I lost a wing mirror, I stopped to clear up, and I found 6 other wing mirrors in the same spot. I know people have joked that if there's any more wing mirrors lost over there, that aircraft pilots passing over will need sunglasses because it must be reflecting up that much. On a positive, much of the problem is HGVs who we assume are not familiar with the area, who really don't deliberately head headlong into this awful funnel. So sat-nav has got to be a major part of the problem and hence a major part of the solution. And if this were promoted to an A road, this would be listed on all sat-nav networks. Any drivers approaching from outside the area would not only see that that we have an A road going through the bottom of town, the new road, and that would be, I believe, by the technicality, they would not only see an A road, but they would actually be automatically directed through an A road for anyone with sat-nav. If this could be done, I know I have heard it said that Barnoldswick is the only town in England that does not have an A road. Am I right there?
I think quite a lot of things are apocryphal.
They could be, but
yeah.
Whether or not, it's certainly time that we have one, which would be, of course, the new road. This, I believe, would solve a massive number of the problems. It would be a very simple job, and dare I suggest it would be a very cheap, quick and easy thing to do. So we should make this request, and let's try and solve this problem, nip this problem in the bud.
Thank you very much. when we've considered this previously, one of the outcomes was we had a dirty gut road direction sign erected at High Ford, which I was looking at the other day, and I think it's over 2 metres wide. You know, it's massive with a big roundel on saying HGV restricted. You know, never mind following your sat nav. The drivers must not be watching the road signs because they drive straight past it and turn right, and bingo, they're on the road. But it also works the other way. So your proposal is that we request, in light of the continuing problems with HGVs misguidedly using the top road, it's unclassified, rural unclassified in part, then it's, I think is it the B6251? That will be tough. But we want to see the B6252 designated as an A road in order to bring heavy traffic on the main road rather than the side roads. Yeah? Yes. Okay. Lola, did you want to comment about broken wing mirrors and the like?
I was just fact checking. Morley, population of 40,000, doesn't have an A road.
Oh.
So,
look, we like boasting about stuff. So.
yeah.
Biggest town in Britain without an A road.
That was in 2016, so they're not going to change. Yeah, I think the amount of small collisions on that top road is, I can't think of a word to mean manyfold. I mean, it is getting a bigger problem with cars getting bigger as well. It's just a general upwards trend of car sizes increasing as people move to SUVs. And that route just isn't appropriate to those large vehicles, especially not HGVs. Which unfortunately do get sent that way. No, Google Maps tends to take you through Kelbrook.
Sorry to interrupt. There's this black Focus. You could just reverse it a little bit so I can shut our gate. Please.
Do you mean right here, at the corner?
Yeah. Is that okay?
Okay, Joanne.
Okay. Sorry about that.
If there's anything critical, I'll make a note. Yeah, Lola?
Yeah, I mean, we collected dozens upon dozens of wing mirrors and car parts when we lit up that top road. Surprisingly, we got several bags full of glass vodka bottles, beer cans, all sorts like that. The amount of drink driving that must go on up there with people throwing it out the windows is, you would never even guess it, you just wouldn't. Because, I mean, we've lit picked stretches the same place, just a couple of years apart, and you just find so many empty bottles of 2 litres of vodka. I mean, it's wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, if an A road would fix it, the only thing I'm cautious of is if that road there gets turned into an A road, and we have safety concerns around, such as the school, and wanting to restrict and improve traffic safety there, would the county council turn around and say, sorry, you made that an A road, we've got to meet these certain highways requirements now, we can't do the changes you suggest, we can't do traffic calming anymore, we can't do speed restrictions, it's, we've got to keep it at 40.
I mean, on that one, I think the County Council's Highway Authority has a duty to ensure that the highways are as safe as possible. So no matter whether it's a B designation or A designation, whatever designation, their duty remains the same. I mean, there's implications when you get to speed limits. We campaign to get a speed limit reduced, and then a planning application comes in and it's a 30-mile-an-hour thing. So the visibility displays are reduced, and there's less owners. But I'm not sure whether there's any similar impacts from A roads and B roads now. you know.
It's generally just the geometry of the road that dictates all those things.
Yeah. The surprising thing, the litter picking that we did when the road had been closed previously, I just couldn't get my head round the number of wiper blades that we found. So, yeah, hubcaps you can understand, wing mirrors you can understand, you know, random bits of bumpers and bonnets and, you know, all the random bits. I mean, huge quantities. But in amongst, there was sort of like, from memory, you know, between 20 and 30 wiper blades. So, how do you... Could be.
Perhaps, Chair, it's the people drinking the 2 whiskey bottles, leaving the vodka bottles in the front, that's throwing it over into the back and wiping the vodka off.
Who knows? Christine?
No, I was just going to say, what will it throw up, turning it into an A road? Obviously, it has a big impact on Salterforth, isn't it? Just more differences.
Let's ask that we meet to consider reclassification as an A road, so that we actually have a discussion and we can understand the downsides as well as the upsides. Yeah? So okay.
I can't believe they used to get the bus to work on that road.
Yeah. Well, don't let me tell you the tale about when I was campaigning to save the bus service over the tops in the mid-1980s, and then ran into the front of it on that bend. But there you go.
We should add as well, sorry, I beg your pardon, when you talk of various bits that are suffering damage, there's also bits of the boundary wall that get hit, and that then drops stones into the road and just creates a further obstruction.
Yeah. Well, you know, it should be a salutary lesson to everybody to drive a little bit slower, be a bit more considerate, and, you know, assume that there will be somebody coming around that corner rather than taking it at a silly speed. Sorry, Lola.
I was just saying, assume everyone's got a higher blood alcohol content than you'd think otherwise.
Yeah, because that's probably the case. Okay, are we all agreed on that as a course of action? Yeah? Okay. Salterforth Village Hall, Salterforth Village Car Park. Oh, I'm sorry, I've put my line through the wrong thing. Tree planting at Bailey Street, Earby. Now then, we have an opportunity, it hasn't yet been confirmed, to get a micro-forest on a triangular section of land between the footpath that runs off Bailey Street to the bottom of Aspen Grove and Bailey Street itself. And if this comes off, because it's dependent on getting trees from, I'm going to say the Woodland Trust, but I might just be wrong with the organisation. So it's dependent on getting the trees, but we have everything in place to carry out a planting scheme up there in February, and it would be planted by volunteers. The contractors who are working on Spring Mill volunteered to assist with plant and putting the fence in and things like that. So it would be a little, well, no cost to the council. It's obviously Pendle Council land. And it would be overseen and organised by Lancashire County Council. So I'm not absolutely sure whether this needs any consent, but I'm more than happy for the area committee to give consent for this to happen, should we have that power. And if we don't, I would suggest that this committee asks the executive to agree to such a a microforest tree planting scheme in that area.
Yes.
Okay. Can we go on to Salterforth Village Car Park now? Okay. So the clerk to Salterforth Parish Council contacted me a little while ago to say that there were various problems with the car park and its misuse. And I said, well, doesn't the Parish Council have it? And she said, no. And I said, well, I'm sure that that's what was intended. Anyway, big do's and little do's. I think an appropriate course of action to take this forward would be to ask for a meeting with Salterforth Parish Council to discuss the issue and the way forward in terms of how we deal with it.
Definitely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Any further comment? No?
Not really.
Right. It's moved and seconded. All those in favour? Thank you. More, sorry, I can't say shit, can I? More sewage. Effluent leak on Ben Lane, Barnoldswick. And this is an issue that's been there for several months, where sewage has been leaking onto the lane. Environmental health have been involved, dye tested everything in the area without success, and it continues to leak onto Ben Lane. Recently there's been several people whose dogs have picked something up in that area, so there's concern that it's damaging the health at least of dogs, and I would suggest people as well if they're ingesting it in any way. So I'd like to escalate this so that we actually get to the bottom of where this effluent is coming from, and hopefully get a cure for it, and whether that's through environmental health or the Environment Agency, I do not know, but it cannot continue. So are we happy to ask Environmental Health and take this up with the Environment Agency in order to escalate it? Yeah? Good, thank you. Use of former sports field off Clifford Street, Barnoldswick. Chris?
Thank you, Chairman. This one really should speak for itself, but it has to be said anyway. This is an area of very concentrated housing, traditional terraced houses, and there is this piece of green land in the middle or at the edge, which is a great facility. It's well used by local children, and I think we should do anything possible to retain it as such a facility. It's very valuable. There are less and less places for children to play nowadays. We have this one. Let's do all we can to keep it.
Thank you. The only thing I'd pick you up on, Chris, is it used to be a valuable asset for kids to go and kick balls about, except the county council no longer maintains it and it's overgrown. So I think the issue is either to get the county council to maintain it as a community facility, or hand it over to somebody, perhaps Barnoldswick Town Council, declare another registrable interest who would maintain it as a facility. There are issues with some residents in the area concerned about children kicking balls about on back streets, and this would make an excellent place for the kids to go without putting themselves at risk of, crossing any main roads or going too far out of the area.
Yeah. Thank you, Chairman. I'm very old-fashioned in thinking that an overgrown piece of land was even more fun for kids. But then that's me and my age. Yes, certainly. Thank you for the update on that, and I agree to that.
Thank you. I think the request is to the County Council, please allow this former school playing field to revert to being a playing field, and if they're not prepared to do it, would they hand it over to Barnoldswick Town Council for the Town Council to maintain it as such? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. That's that one. Mains water pressure, Wentcliffe Drive area of Earby. Looking over at David and Susan, this is an issue that at times the flow of water on Wentcliffe Drive Earby drops to a trickle. People can't have showers. There are huge problems with that, and concerns that additional housing in the area will make the problem even worse. So it's probably a case of picking it up with Yorkshire Water. David?
Certainly, there's been a lot of complaints up there, as you say. You've literally got a trickle coming out of the showers up there, which isn't good, especially in hot weather. And you can't turn a hosepipe on your kid outside, you've got to do it inside. So I think we need to get Yorkshire Water, now that they've fixed the problem on Old Hill Street, hopefully the pressure will rise on the land above. So,
well, perhaps. So take it up with Yorkshire Water to see whether they can improve the service. Yeah? No, talking about Wentcliffe Drive area.
Is it? Is that not the ranch now?
No.
No, right.
No, Wentcliffe Drive's up to the side of
Yeah,
Earby.
sorry.
Yeah. Christine,
What?
it's showing your ignorance.
Just living in the middle, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know yet.
All right.
some saltfish never comes over there.
Moving swiftly on. The next one, roadside bench, New Road, Earby, David.
That's fine, Chairman. Yeah, Gleason's, I have to say, to every meeting. There we go. I have concern from my my ladies that sit on this bench. It's like the last of the summer wine. This bench is a meeting point. It's also a historical bench. It's got the S shapes on, which is right on the edge of the Gleason's development. In fact, it's in one of the first garden of the first house on the top of the new road. About Gleason's moving this bench. It's where they all meet. It's right at the top of the hill when they bring the shopping up from the co-op, and it's a stop-off point for so many people. And they're concerned that they even suggested could they move it across to Moyston, the entrance to the Moyston Avenue down that way, and Gleason said no, they owned all that property right the way up there, and they weren't prepared to put it there. So it's really trying to work out, one, the land is owned by Earby, the bench is owned by Earby Town Council. It's on their list of things on their map. I'm just trying to put the residents at ease to what's going to happen to this bench.
Okay. I'm aware that Gleason's have asked if they could relocate the bench, and I pointed them in direction of Earby Town Council as the owners of the bench. I've not heard anything since, so I think we've probably got two-pronged approach. One is to Earby Town Council as the custodian of roadside benches in Earby, and the other one is to Gleason's direct. You were looking at Neil quite a bit, but I'm not sure whether the bench was included in the planning conditions.
It wasn't in the planning conditions. If it's in the application, to be honest, I've not looked at it, so I have absolutely no idea.
Well, there was an application for the boundary treatment, and I'm wondering whether we've inadvertently agreed to a boundary treatment that fences it off.
I'll have to look at it, Chairman. I really don't know.
All right. So are we content with the resolution that we approach both Earby Town Council and Gleason's to see what their intentions are with this historic serpent bench? Yeah?
But you want it moving?
No,
We want it to stay like
we
this.
prefer it to stay where it was. Susan?
If it's relocated, then it's useless anyway, because that's where they need it, to stop at the top of the hill.
It's whether it could go round, just round the corner onto the unmade from Mossing Avenue.
Yeah, but I mean, that is significant relocation.
Yeah, I think Gleason's were looking to either put a new one or move it down at the bottom, which defeats the objective of having it on the hill. But there we go. If we can have a discussion, that'd be good. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, are we agreed on that? Yeah, thank you. Condition of Little Cut, Rainbow Rock, Long to it. This one, the condition of the land is deplorable. There's been fly tipping, no management of the land at all, and I should mention this is in the ownership, or was in the ownership of the late Fred Birtwistle. Every time we ask about these former Fred Birtwistle assets, we're told it's in probate. Whether that's the case or not, I don't know. But we really do need to consider how this area can be cleared up and maintained in a decent condition, because it could be an absolute gem, wildlife sanctuary. At one time, I mean, it was used for angling, but with all the pollution that's gone in there, that's not possible. So it could be an asset at the moment. It's the very opposite. So I think it's a case of asking our officers what can be done, and then seeing what course of action we can follow. So it's probably a report back to a future meeting with the options. Yeah, is that okay? Yeah. Very good. And finally, agricultural vehicles on public roads. Mick?
Yeah, I'd like to link this into, if we ever get an attendance with police again around, and then trying to do a little bit of enforcement with us. I'm more than mindful that where we live, we have to have, and we do allow for agricultural vehicles to travel on those roads with mowers and things like that as they're going from fields to fields and farms to farms. Totally get that. But what we have seen is a massive increase recently, over recent years, of commercial waste being moved and shifted from building sites and development areas using tractors and trailers of the agricultural sort of build. And what they are is they are massive, overpowering sized vehicles that are restricted in speed, but even at low speed, the way that they come through the town is just bullyish. There's very little consideration for people that are driving through, for parked vehicles. We talk about mirrors being ripped off cars over the top road. I bet we could count 24 down Gisborne Road in the last few months. There is always a mirror hanging off. What also really, really worries me is that you can drive these large vehicles fully loaded with trailers at a very young age, 16-year-old. That's a very inexperienced driver for a very large vehicle, and I think that's where we need the help maybe of the attendants of the police at some point to try and just put a little bit of ease back into residents, particularly down the Gisborne Road area where the road narrows, but also people coming through town. They're a scary vehicle, are these, when they're fully loaded and travelling. And I think if we don't try and do something, we're going to end up in a position where we're trying to make sense of a serious accident.
Okay. Lola?
I think the interesting point can be made about if they're using those vehicles for construction. I mean, taking material on or off site should be controlled by the planning system, I thought.
This is where the two-tier status doesn't help us. Waste is a county matter, so we don't have any actual jurisdiction on that.
So it would be the county council for the waste licences, which could be another prong to this discussion. Because I mean, there are proper vehicles out there. You know, you 20-ton tippers, which are much more appropriate, require fully trained drivers to operate and have much more safety features that should be on vehicles that use the public highway network regularly than the agricultural vehicles that Nick's talking about. So I think the county council should be having a stronger enforcement arm on commercial usage, which, if you're having trade waste, not trade waste, you need to move any waste from one site to another, you've got to keep receipt of that, and it's, within certain limits, you've got to have permissions in place, and you've got to have, the county council checking up on you.
Well, waste transfer licences come to mind.
Yes, that's right. Exactly what I was talking about.
Carrier's licence.
Okay.
I'd certainly like to back me, because we have a situation in Earby where we have one farmer who delights in tearing down Red Line Street and scaring everybody with his speed, fully laden, night and day. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to comment that with the pollution incident down Greenberfield, I counted 19 massive tractors with big tankers on the back who were brought in to haul sewage from, well, it was actually going to Burnley to tip off or unload. So we've had in yesterday and potentially today if it's rained, I don't think it's rained this evening, but there's been at least a dozen of these massive tractors bombing up and down Gisborne Road, busily taking people's waste away, literally taking their waste away. So I'm surprised there hasn't been a bit of comment about that. I have to say 6 of the vehicles, 6 of the tractors were using the PTOs to pump pump the sewage. So I mean, industrial scale operation, which I think is probably exceptional, but I think it highlights the issue about the oversized vehicles bombing up and down. And quite a few of those drivers were quite young. Not saying they were 16, but they were quite young. Okay, Christine.
I think the law will be quite old, won't it, that they could be 16 to drive, and that was before they got these massive, even faster tractors, weren't they? And it's all over the country, isn't it? But now we see these fast tracks and everything, and just like they used to do, you're going along on your little massive Earby, so I mean, it's legal what they're doing, but whether it's big things on.
Well, I mean, I'm certainly not knocking the agricultural community, and I think that you know, we need to address this issue appropriately. Mickey's suggesting that we approach the police, ask them to discuss it at one of our meetings. The issue about waste transfer licences, I don't know whether, David, you can pick that up with the EA.
I would need anybody can actually check on the public register if a carrier is licensed.
Okay.
Would happily would do that if you have the name of the carrier and want to share it with me.
Okay, well, I'm not aware that we've necessarily got those details. But
Shall we work from Mr. Allison, who we can mention because he's been in prison now? There's a lot of exemptions about as well from that process from West Side. So it's where does he take it? That's one of the big things we've got as well. Yeah. Just from that angle, from the West angle. Okay.
Chair, I think there's 2 points that sort of need addressing. One is absolutely we're not having a pop at our local farming community. No. We absolutely accept that, you know, they do have to drive on public roads, and 9 times out of 10 they are respectful and they do it in accordance to the law. My worry and concern is strange faces, very young faces, coming through town, as in using our main road as a thoroughfare to go from one place to another at, you know, their top speed. I know it's only 30, but it's still very, very quick. And the second bit is that, you know, in terms of the policing, even the rural policing community could go out and speak to farmers and young drivers, and maybe all we want to do is we head off. We don't want to be in a position where we've got somebody seriously killed or seriously injured or killed on one of our roads with an agricultural vehicle.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. Okay, so have we got a reasonable course of action?
Yeah.
Yeah? Are we all agreed on that? Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, so we want to discuss it with the police. Well, we'll raise it with the local sergeant and ask that we can discuss it at a future meeting. Hopefully when we come to the next meeting. We'll check out the situation as best we can in terms of waste carriers and things like that. Yeah?
I'm not sure about that.
Well, neither do I. Okay. So that brings us to the end of that section. We're going on now to a couple of items that we have to take in public. That's outstanding enforcements and problem sites. So there's a resolution to exclude the press and public. That's moved. Is it seconded? It is. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Right, so we're just going to turn the live stream off.